Today we're going to show you how to cut a wall-to-wall floating shelf and have a scribe on both sides. My name is Adam McKee. I'm the owner of Contemporary Woods. Let's get started. So we already have one done as a demonstration. Overall, I'm really pleased with the results. However, let's show you how to get started. We're using a 1/4 inch template material, and we've cut the template about 1 inch short of the overall shelf to get the template. I've already done the scribing, and that's a separate training procedure. But I've done the scribing on the template to make sure it fits on each side for the lower level. Now I'm taking this same template and I'm taking it up top here. I'm noticing that the wall is not the same as it was down below. So what we're going to start with is getting the template accurate, and then we'll transfer those marks to our finished material. Okay, I've retuned my template for this second scribe. I'm happy with how it's touching on the front. There's a little gap in the back, but that's within tolerance. We want the front to touch tight. And the same thing here. I got touching nice and tight in the front, and there's a little gap in the middle, but that won't be noticeable. So, using my tape measure, double checking my work, referencing the mark that I wrote down myself, I've made a line 13/16 from this edge. So now I can go ahead and unclamp the template, and I'm going to slide the template over until I get right on that line, and then I'll reclamp it using my 1/4 inch spacers to make sure everything's flush, and then I'll continue transferring this line, and I'll transfer this line, and then we'll have our cut lines on the one face. Okay, the next step we want to go over is transferring the template to the finished material. I've prepped my project by putting our yellow tape on all the edges that are going to be cut, and I've had the template marked. What's top, what's the wall, what's the right, what's the left. And I've got all that information because as we move the template from area to area or from face to face, we want to make sure we have the same orientation every single time. What I've done next is I've clamped this, and in this case my template was a little bit wider than my shelf, and I made sure it was perfectly overhanging the same amount so we have a consistent result. And once that was done, then I went through with a utility knife, and I held the utility knife square to the edge here, and I've transferred that mark. So now I can come along and pull my yellow tape, revealing my cut line. And when I've done that, I can go ahead and move this template 13/16 to the right. Now before I complete the move, I'm going to take my tape measure and make a mark here and lay out the 13/16 with a knife mark, and then I'll know where to slide my template over to next. Okay, we've done the first series of cuts. Let's recap what we've done. We laid out the template, we marked the lines with the utility knife, we pulled away the tape to reveal the cut line, just like I've done over here, and I've started to belt sand them. Now it's tricky because you have to get the belt sander in here at an angle and not hit the second layer. So that is a challenge you have to work your skill level up to. What I've done next is started transferring the lines down the face. So I have everything lined up here, and I'm lining up my square, and I'm taking the same utility knife that we used earlier and transfer that line down here. And once I have both sides transferred, I'm going to go ahead and flip the whole shelf over and repeat the same process for laying out the template. Now, the important part, and let me cover it, is this template can't flip. This template basically needs to slide from here under, and we have to bury the labeling. Otherwise, we'll have a mirror image, and we don't want that. Let's get into that next. Let's go over how I just flipped the shelf. I want to be clear from the last clip how we're doing that. I did end up, obviously, flipping the shelf over, but I'm doing the same thing with the template. So the template was like this before. It was on the top of the shelf. Now, since I've flipped the shelf upside down, I'm going to take the same template and I'm going to flip it upside down. Now I have the bottom and the front bottom and the left wall. And notice how I've written them this direction, because I feel like that's signifying the same thing, that we flipped it. We're tracking how we're handling the template so we don't get confused. And I'm going to line it up like I did last time. So this And this time I have a tape line to go to already. So I'm going to line up with that, with my 1/4 inch overhang here. And then I'll do the left marking. I'll start the back, and then I'll slide this over, and I'll repeat the same thing here. You can see that my knife line has left a nice, clean, crisp edge. I can transfer that to the top and then slide this template over and proceed with cutting. All right, the last step before we go install is to check our work. We're gonna make sure that all of our lines were belt sanded appropriately. We're looking for even straight lines. As I sight down this, I'm looking to see that everything lines up. I want the front to touch first. And in this case, since it's stained, our default is not to put caulking in there, but to make it fit tight. Caulking is a secondary if we have to. So looking at this, I'm also looking to see, are those edges, making sure they're beveled in as much as we can. The bottom one is definitely beveled in, so I've checked my supports. So the next step is to prep the wall. Okay, let's go over one potential defect that could be caused at this stage. Since we have our template short of the total length, we need to keep track of how we have it currently laid out. And the technique I'm using is looking at my clear visual indicator of the yellow tape. I have the template lined up as I'm standing here. Before I even take my knife, before I cut, my first step is to double check. Okay, I am lined up, and now I can score the tape, pull my knife or pull my tape off, because what we don't want to do is come over here and cut. We need to shift this first. In fact, I'm going to write my reminder of, let me switch hands here, 13/16. And that'll help me memorize it, because every time we write, we're connecting our process in the brain, from the hand to the brain, and helping put that in our memory of what we need to do next. All right, I've prepped my work area. I have my material nearby that I'm going to install. I've cleaned all the edges. I've checked for inspection, make sure I'm happy with all my cuts. I have my third hand, medium size, stretching the wall. I'm making sure I'm putting it on the studs, because I don't want to cause any drywall nail pops if we don't have to. And then I'm going to grab the shelf. I'm going to slide it in there. Let's see what happens. All right, we have it in. We got a fairly snug fit. Overall, I'm pretty pleased. This side looks really good. If you look up close, you really can't see. Over here, it's a little gappy on the bottom, but I'm going to say it's within tolerance. I have some piece of paper here. It can snugly fit 4 sheets of paper in the gap there. And then at the top it closes up and 4 sheets cannot fit. So I would say for the first shelf, that's okay. I'm going to adjust the jig and do it a little bit tighter, so take off a little bit less material on the second one. But there will be tile on the back wall, and I'm overall pleased with how everything looks around there. Obviously there's some paint touch-up and other touch-ups to do, but that's the fit we're looking for, to spread the wall, to make sure it's a tight fit, and to make it a successful install.